I'm posting this the first week of November 2024. Our nation is facing a critical time. There are many aspects, but fundamentally it comes down to two choices. Do we blow the leaves off the mountain bike trails prior to winter, or do we leave them in place until spring? What's that? The election? Well, yeah, there's that too. But let's solve the leaf issue first. And although there are two well-supported schools of thought, I believe there is only one right answer. Before I share my solution to the conundrum, let's examine both positions. Those who say to remove the leaves point out that the first step in building a sustainable mountain bike trail is to remove the vegetative matter so that the trail is built on mineral soil. Waiting until spring to remove the leaves allows some biodegradation of those dead leaves, and blowing the leaves in spring does not displace this denser, heavier material. Over time, that vegetative matter builds up and you're back to an unsustainable trail until you once again remove that matter. As for the leaves protecting the trail, that presumes the leaf cover is over the entire length of the trail and that the density of the leaf blanket is everywhere sufficient to protect the underlying soil, which varies considerably over the length of the trail. You're going to wind up doing remediation in spring anyway. Why compound that effort with a vain attempt to remove leaf matter that has essentially become compost? The better approach is to remove the leaves once in late autumn or early winter, build public awareness of the damage done by riding in wet conditions and during the freeze-thaw cycle, and accept the fact that this will reduce but not eliminate winter trail damage. It's impractical to pursue the unattainable absolute of zero winter trail damage. Some folks, whether through ignorance or selfishness, will ride when they ought not. Let's set our sights on minimizing damage and accept that there will always be some need for springtime trail work. Those who say to leave the leaves say those leaves offer some protection, often substantial protection, against the damage done by the careless riders who will inevitably show up and ride, regardless of your best efforts to discourage them. Yes, there will be some damage in some spots where the leaves were too thin to provide adequate protection. But overall, leaving leaves is a good mitigation strategy. You know that your group will be doing spring repair and cleanup, and the practice of leaving the leaves in place until then delivers less need for trail work than leaving the trail exposed over the winter. Those who argue about which approach is best have powerful arguments, not because they can skillfully tweak their narrative to obscure the facts and trumpet their opinions. The arguments are powerful because the facts are powerful. Both positions make a great deal of sense. Here's another place where I feel it's fit to mention my favorite Thomas Sowell quote from his book, A Conflict of Visions. There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. Whether the leaves are left or removed doesn't especially matter. Either approach comes with follow-up work, and the nature of that work really doesn't change significantly. So if both positions are equally valid, how can I say there is one right solution? Simple. Neither of these is the right choice. Both of these are a posteriori discussions. The a priori foundation on which these a posteriori discussions are built is that all trail systems should have a managing entity, whether that's the agency that manages the property, or a friends of group, or a mountain bike club, and it is up to that group to pick an approach and adopt it as theirs. So the correct solution, in my mind, is to contribute to the group discussion, have some sort of parliamentary procedure for arriving at a consensus, and then work to support the group's decision. My first commitment is not to my trail management preferences. My first commitment is to supporting the group in their agreed-upon trail management preferences. I am in a cooperative effort to build public trails. If I cannot support the group, then I should find another group that is more in sync with my thinking, or, better yet, buy some land and build my own trails to my own standards. In my mind, the best approach to this situation is to just be a good team player. Let me mention that there is a common cultural tendency to diss government management agencies. This is especially true with federal properties. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the National Park Service, the National Forest Service, and the Bureau of Land Management come under relentless criticism. The fact is, these agencies and their state and local counterparts all have prescribed missions for resource management. Public input is required and taken into consideration. Both the mission statements and the public input procedures can have flaws, but fundamentally they do a good job managing vast resources with limited assets. I spent a decade working closely with the Hoosier National Forest to develop their mountain bike program. The process could be frustrating, and I freely admit that the trails are mostly terrible, but I did come away with a much deeper understanding of and appreciation for how the Forest Service functions. And let me close with this observation. Leaf management has some of the lowest impact on trail quality. It's my observation that by far the biggest damage to trail conditions result from soil compression. When I'm on a trail that has received even a moderate amount of use, that trail nearly always needs to be debermed and have its outslope restored. This is because soil compression has resulted in a rut that holds water very effectively. Bad riders ride around this standing water, lensing out the trail. Good riders ride through the water, displacing soil along with the water and exacerbating the problem. Loamy soils have the most compression and rocky soils the least, but all soils have some. Again, we're talking about soil here, not exposed bedrock, as is found on many of the trails at Raccoon Mountain near Chattanooga, Tennessee. Over time, it erodes, but does not compress. I think deberming and restoring outslope should be a primary objective in trail management, second only to response to such events as wind and flood damage. So that's it. Was this video helpful? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Liking and sharing this video and subscribing all help build the channel, and I do appreciate your support. I'm Rich Reese, and I'll see you out there.